Picture a forest so isolated, so silent that even the winds dare not to whisper. This is an uncharted wilderness untouched by the hands of time, where the echoes of modern life dissipate into nothingness, lost in the ether of forgotten dreams. A realm where even the sun timidly retreats behind the intricate weave of the impenetrable age-old trees, and where trails are forever swallowed up by a labyrinth of undergrowth. Here, in this primordial silence, the human heartbeat resounds loudly, a drumbeat echoing in the quietude, amplifying the profound silence that pervades every crevice of the air. This is not just a place. This is a presence that radiates solitude. It's a world where isolation takes on a chilling resonance, where solitude infiltrates every fiber of your being. It is here, where nature, in its rawest and most untamed form, meticulously crafts a canvas of sublime serenity, juxtaposed with an eerie tranquility, a place where the rustling leaves converse in hushed tones, whispering ancient secrets of the old world, and the incessant melody of chirping crickets form an otherworldly symphony. In this primordial forest, the shadows are restless, teeming with an ominous sense of foreboding. They dance in the twilight, casting an alluring spell on the curious, luring the brave into their mysterious embrace. The vibrant spectrum of daylight fades, succumbing to the spectral hues of nightfall, birthing a canvas on which the darkness etches its unsettling masterpiece. A fragile line separates the living from the uncanny, and the forest reverberates with the whispers of tales long buried in its depths. As the eager campers, their hearts ablaze with the thrill of the unknown, start to erect their tents, they unwittingly cross the threshold into a realm that thrives in the absence of light. A realm that feeds on the fear of the unexplored, on the exhilarating thrill of the uncharted. They've unknowingly stepped foot into a parallel universe, where every shadow holds a clandestine secret, every rustle a whisper of the unseen. As they nestle under the inky expanse of the night sky, they remain blissfully ignorant of the spectral eyes that silently observe them from the undergrowth. As darkness descends, the forest undergoes a metamorphosis. The ethereal glow of the moon, casting elongated shadows that dance and intertwine on the forest floor. The nocturnal orchestra begins its haunting serenade, a symphony of sounds that echo throughout the wilderness. Predators awaken from their slumber, their predatory instincts piqued by the fear and vulnerability of the weak. An eerie calm descends, a disquieting peace that cloaks the forest as it begins to unveil its true, ominous nature. The night stirred to life, not with the predictable lullaby of crickets or rustling leaves, but with an unsettling choir of whispers. These whispers, like spectral echoes rising from an unseen abyss, carried an ethereal tune that hung heavy in the air. The leaves fluttered, not by the phantom touch of wind, but seemingly in response to these whispers, as if they too were privy to this clandestine discourse. The whispers, elusive as they were, seemed to originate from everywhere, yet from nowhere, creating an impression that the very fabric of the night was spinning tales older than time itself. These whispers, like invisible dancers, pirouetted through the wind, twirling and twisting, forming enigmatic words in tongues long forgotten. Each vowel, each syllable held a secret, a mystery that the night was desperate to unfold. These weren't mere whispers of the wind, but rather dialogues with the unseen, the unspoken, and the unfathomable. Their rhythm was unpredictable, yet hypnotic, like an unusual symphony conducted by an army of unseen specters. Specters, the whispers, threading themselves into a grand tapestry of sound, created a dynamic swirling vortex that seemed to consume everything within its reach. The campers, who had previously been high-spirited and carefree, were now eerily still, their joviality replaced by a strange mix of fear and curiosity. Their eyes, wide with a strange blend of terror and intrigue, mirrored the whisper's pulsating rhythm in each heartbeat. The previously cheerful chatter, the unburdened laughter, the friendly banter, was now replaced by a silence that only served to amplify the whispers. Shadowy figures, elusive as smoke, lurked amongst the towering trees, their cold presence akin to the frost-kissed moonlight that washed over the landscape. They remained unseen, their identities masked in the mystery of the night. The air, once filled with the innocent laughter of campers, now echoed with the disconcerting symphony of whispers. The whispers seemed to breathe life into the night, filling every nook and cranny with an otherworldly energy. Suddenly the whispers ceased. The ensuing silence was more deafening than the whispers ever were. The absence of sound wasn't serene but ominous, as if the night held its breath in anticipation of the impending storm. The whispers were replaced by a silence that didn't suggest peace, but rather hinted at something more sinister lurking in the unseen. In the startling silence, the campers decided to investigate the source of the whispers. With torchlights in hand, they entered the woods, their hearts echoing the silent rhythm of the night. Their faces, lit by the artificial light, held a grim determination to uncover the mystery. As they delved deeper, the night seemed to thicken around them. The silence deepened, and the whispers remained a chilling memory etched into the canvas of the night. In the obsidian void of the forest, the unseen evoked a terror far more horrifying than anything visible to the naked eye. The stifling darkness seemed to pulse with malevolence, nurturing their growing fear with each passing heartbeat. A cold, biting wind swept around them, whispering chilling tales of ghastly nightmares and impending doom into their shivering ears. It was as though the very soul of nature had schemed to drown them into a bottomless ocean of fear. The air, once fragrant with the earthy scent of pine, was now a paralyzing concoction of dread and raw terror. The campers, previously brimming with joyous anticipation, were now frozen statues of fear, their bodies rigid with abject terror, their minds suspended in a chilling state of panic. The innocent laughter and animated chatter that had earlier filled the campsite were now lost in the annals of memory, replaced by the crushing silence of the night and the deafening thrum of their frantic heartbeats. The comforting warmth of their campfire had long since faded away, usurped by the icy and unrelenting hold of fear that had them in its merciless grip. The figures that had once seemed like benign forest dwellers now morphed into ominous silhouettes of horror. These harmless shadows were no longer products of their overactive imaginations. They seemed to creep, to skulk, to observe. They felt almost alive, thriving on the campers' mounting fear, growing more dreadful and threatening with each ticking second. The whispers that they had formerly dismissed as the harmless rustling of leaves or the nocturnal calls of the forest animals had transformed into murmurs. They bounced off the trees, echoing through the silent night. These eerie sounds seemed to dance around them, carried by the cold wind, growing louder and more terrifying. Each echo held a warning, a threat, an unseen specter of terror that was steadily and ruthlessly closing in. Every rustle, every whisper, every shadow seemed the harbinger of an unknown terror that lurked in the dark recesses of the forest. The foreboding atmosphere was tangible, almost like an entity. It felt like the forest was inching closer with each breath, the trees looming ominously over them, the darkness turning more profound. The very air seemed to tremble with the sense of an impending calamity. And then, amidst this terrifying anticipation, something unthinkable began to unfold. One by one, the campers began to vanish, swallowed whole by the all-consuming darkness, their terrified screams echoing into the void, a chilling testimony of the horror that had befallen them. Daybreak unveiled a campsite marred not only by terror but also by an undercurrent of something far more ominous. The dawning sun fought valiantly to penetrate the dense canopy of the woods, yet its beams were greedily consumed, creating a surreal imitation of perpetual twilight. The shadows cast peculiar patterns upon the forest floor, transforming the dread and horror that lurked in the minds of the hapless intruders into a grotesque reality. With the advent of a new day, the remnants of the previous night's abominations were laid bare for all to witness. The once welcoming campsite had morphed into a grim tableau of unspoken terror. Tents that once stood proud were now crumbled under the weight of an unseen presence, their once vibrant fabric marred by the haunting remnants of the past night's ordeal. As the shroud of darkness slowly lifted, a horrifying reality was unfurled, a reality that once seemed distant and unreal. The campers, who were once bursting with life and joy, were transmuted into ghostly figures, indistinguishable from the shadows that stemmed from the deepest recesses of their nightmares. These were not the same individuals who had arrived at the campsite with faces aglow with the thrill of adventure. These were mere husks of those people, their humanity lost in the eerie whisperings of the woods, now bound forever to the spectral realm. The laughter that once bounced joyously through the trees was replaced by a chilling silence, broken only by the occasional rustle of overhead branches. Their voices, which once rang with joy and laughter, were now nothing more than whispers in the wind, a spectral addition to the eerie forest symphony. But these whispers carried more than the mere rustle of leaves. They carried their pleas, their desperate cries for help, their petrified shrieks. Each voice was trapped, destined to echo through the dense forest for eternity, carried by the chilling winds that roamed aimlessly. However, beneath the obvious horror, a darker truth emerged, a shocking revelation about the campers themselves. Their bodies may have escaped, but their souls were incarcerated within the woods. The whispering woods had its way with those who dared to venture within, devouring their essence, their very being, and leaving behind nothing but hollow vessels. But the forest was not solely responsible for their transformation. The campers themselves harbored a dark secret, a malignant past that resonated with the foreboding nature of the woods. Their transformation was not a random act of horror, but a mask lifted, revealing the monstrous souls they had been all along. The Whispering Woods claimed more tainted souls, as it had done numerous times before. This tragedy, however, left us with a bitter complexity. Who were the real monsters in this tale? The Whispering Woods or the campers themselves?